Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Unstuck Masterclass. It's going to take a few minutes for people to get notified, to figure out how to use this space. And as you're popping in, I just want to welcome you. If you're watching the replay, thank you so much for, first of all, investing in this opportunity with your time and your energy. This is incredible. The things I'm going to cover tonight might be triggering for some folks. And if you find that you're starting to feel like it's too much, full empowerment. I will not make it mean anything about me if you need to leave. Okay? So some of the things I'm going to talk about today are my personal story, the things that led up to me having to recover from trauma in the first place. I promise not to give any gory details, but I feel like some things are necessary for you to know in order to understand why it matters. Why me? Why Cheryl? Why Unstuck? Why now? Why today? What gives me the authority to share these kinds of things? So I will be sitting here and just giving a few things, giving people a few minutes to find me. I'm also going to pop over to my YouTube channel real quick and make sure that folks can see. Okay, so I'm just going to go find this and then grab the video link. Sweet. Okay. So it says one person is watching now. Grab this link and post it into the Facebook group, and then everyone will have it. So if you're having any issues, watching or connecting, please let me know. Can we get a shout out to this mug? Get a nice little shout out to the mug for Fox. Thanks. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to take a minute to clear the energy, set the space, welcome folks in. I have set the YouTube channel comments filter pretty high just to avoid spam bots. So please know that if your questions are not appearing in the live chat or I don't answer them, I will go back as soon as the recording is finished and answer any questions and post any to the YouTube page if applicable. Yes! Hey Kendra, what's up? Are you watching on the YouTube or on the restream? I don't really know a big difference between the two of them, but that is okay. I do want to also let folks know who are watching the replay that I will send an email to everyone who registered. If you would like the link to the replay, it's inside of my Facebook group. If you require a transcript with all of the words that I'm saying, please let me know and I will do that service for you as well. I prefer YouTube. I like that it's streaming on to YouTube. That is my favorite thing ever. And as soon as I figure out how to set it up to my Facebook, I will have it in there as well. All right. So I have with me some sage and cedar that I got from a local indigenous lady here in Nanaimo. Maybe you have room spray. Maybe you have crystals. Maybe you're clearing the energy in the space is much more profound than mine. Oh, this would help if I drop my microphone on the floor. This is live, people. Cool story. Anyway, so however you like to tune in and set an energetic boundary, I want you to do that right now. I want you to feel as safe as possibly can. So for me, where I'm sitting in the office right now, just going to close my eyes and I'm just going to take a couple of deep breaths and feel the security of the earth below me. And remind myself that I'm safe, secure, and total autonomy of my actions and reactions in this moment. And I want to invite you to return to whatever breathing helps you regulate your nervous system. If during the process of tonight, you get a little schwitzy in your spirit, you know what I'm saying? Okay. So prior to today's master class, my lovely wife, Olivia, and I were having this incredible, awful, wonderful, awkward discussion that happens cyclically between the two of us. And let me know if you can relate. We'll be like asking a question of the other partner. Something as simple as, what do you want to do today? How are you feeling? What do you want for dinner? Okay. Pick any of those. It's still applicable. And the other person gets so stuck worrying about choosing the right answer that their partner wants to hear that they miss asking themselves what they really want, what they really feel. And it turns into this freeze loop of hiding from your feelings and not feeling safe and secure to vocalize those to the person who's asking you questions. This is something that happens to us all of the time. It's quite normal for people who have historically had to anticipate others' needs and others' responses to their own needs all the time. So why do I bring that up? As I'm talking and as I'm asking questions and as I'm telling my story tonight, you might feel like a few different ways. You might not be able to resonate to the feelings. And for the first time, you might actually have words given to something you couldn't name. Okay. So if you feel, I don't know how else to call it except wiggly inside. Hi, Shelly. I don't know how else to call it except wiggly inside. So if you feel wiggly inside, I want you to know that there's nothing wrong with you. If you feel feelings that you'd rather not feel, I want you to know there's nothing wrong with you. Okay? This space, this class, the way that I teach, I'm very honest. I'm very forthright. I can be a little bit salty, but I promise you that I will not do something to intentionally harm you if you're ever in one of my spaces. And you, as an enlightened, empowered adult human being, have the autonomy to ask questions, to lean in and say, what do you mean by that? Can you rephrase it in a different way? Did you mean this? I'm not understanding. You can leave if you need to leave. You can come back. You can go for a walk. Whatever it is that you need to do to feel safe, secure, grounded, and in control of your situation, you can do that. Okay? I believe in you. You got this. So I'm going to hop right into it and honor everyone's time on this fine Saturday. I'm so excited that you came here. I have queued us up a super dorky PowerPoint. Who loves dorky PowerPoints? Hands up. It's me. It's me. So let me just make it so that I can see my screen. We are going to go into, I'm not going to put it into present mode because then I can't see the restream. I haven't figured that out yet. I love you. It's totally fine. We're just going to use what we've got. And if you have a hard time reading anything, just let me know. I will post the transcript along with the replay after the fact. And it will be a private YouTube link so that people can't like access it all of the time. But you will have access to that. So cool story. Here we go. How to get unstuck and build momentum. So when I was talking about being stuck, I want to talk about the different ways that I have felt stuck. But first, who the heck am I to be teaching you about getting unstuck and building sustainable, consistent momentum anyway? Because momentum is great unless it's a runaway train, and then it is not helpful in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so I grew up with a narcissistic mom. By the time I was in 4th grade, I had already been to 19 different schools in half a dozen or so different cities. Like, I don't remember back far enough, like as in my childhood brain. I just remember moving all the time and being the perpetual new kid. And so I was always stuck in this mindset that I had to make people like me or I was going to be alone. And I carried that thought, that feeling, those tendencies all the way through to adulthood, and even still am dealing with excavating them now. So how do I get unstuck, and how do I build sustainable, consistent momentum? Over the course of the slides, I want to be forthright and fully honest. You are not going to end this masterclass magically unstuck with a 10-step plan on how to always build momentum. What you're going to do is maybe learn how to reframe what it means to be stuck, what you make it mean about yourself when you are stuck or when someone else is, and how to manage 1 or 2 things at a time so that you don't feel completely out of control and completely unsafe in your growth journey, because that is the number 1 thing that would cause me to stop in my tracks and go back to my old patterns of behavior, because at least I knew what was coming with those. At least I could predict that. At least I already had somewhat of a coping mechanism. I already had a few people who liked and loved me, and I already had this and I already had that. So like knowing, even though I was dissatisfied and depressed and like hopeless, quite frankly, and like stuck in hypervigilance and trauma response, I was comfortable there because I knew it. So learning how to keep as much comfort as possible that is healthy and have support in that while you move forward on 1 or 2 things at a time is my number 1 way to build sustainable momentum. Because if you think about sustainability, it's a buzzword, whatever. But if you think about what the word actually means, it's like consistent, continuous. So like if you think about a piano, there's a pedal called the sustain pedal, and as long as your foot is holding pressure on that, the sound continues at the same tonal frequency. It might get quieter over time, but it's still the same note. And as long as your foot is on that pedal, that note keeps going. So I want you to think of tonight's masterclass as learning how to energetically, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually choose which thing to sustain so that you can build trust with yourself. And then you add things. You don't try to do it all at once. So many of us are so freaking impatient. Hi, my name is Cheryl. I'm impatient. I'm also a Leo, which makes me aggressively impatient. Thank God for my Libra moon. Am I right? Anyhow, so like we get impatient. I have gotten to the point now where I have broken several generational curses in my family, and I refuse to quit at being good enough. And I don't mean that in a self-sabotagey kind of way. Past me, even 5 years ago, everything that I have right now, the business that I'm growing, the fact that I can be live streaming confidently from the comfort of my home instead of working a responsible day job, the fact that I get to use my degree, the fact that I'm even married to a woman, and the fact that we have a home, All of these things were part of my dream life. It was like the best that I thought that I could ever get. And I don't mean this in a way to diminish anything, okay? Because I have a really good life. But I'm here to tell you that once you start to build consistent, sustainable momentum, the only way is up, because you get excited about the possibility and you get excited about your potential and you get excited about the world's potential. And the more you lean into that energy, the less fear becomes like something that stops you. And it almost becomes like the catalyst to explore, to question, because you know you can't fuck it up. Okay. So, why did I start with a physical goal? And I'm not here to talk about diet culture. Fuck that. I'm still fat. It's fine. I love my body. I love what my body is able to do. I love what I'm able to do with my body. But when you see the picture of me at Pride and I'm over 300 pounds on my 5'6" and a bit frame, I was not able to do the things that I loved to do. And the only reason I wasn't able to do it is because I had traded my substance abuse addiction for food and sugar. Okay. So, why I started with a physical goal: one, control. It is easier to build a system or to take a system that has already had proven results in someone else's life and detach from the emotion of it all, in theory, and apply it to your own life. So I learned in my body that I was stronger than I thought I am. I learned how to nurture and care for myself without having to touch the deep feelings at first. And it wasn't until I was doing or trying to do a plank when I was 296 pounds. I was trying to do a plank. I couldn't do a plank, so I was holding a plank on my knees, and the exercise was like, you hold a plank for 10 seconds, you let go for 5, you hold it for 10, you let go for 5, and you do that 3 times, and then you take a break, and you do it again. So we got to the third set, and I remember, even now, and I might get emotional talking about this, I remember holding it, and I remember fighting with my thoughts, my internal monologue. I remember fighting with my thoughts, and I remember it saying, Cheryl, you can't do this. You can't do this. You're too fat. You're too weak. You're too this. You're too that. Why don't you just give up? You need more time. Blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden, the courage in me, the me that had come through all of the trauma, the me that had been abandoned by my family, the me that had been rejected by the religious group that I spent a decade giving everything I had to, the me that felt alone and isolated, the me that felt ugly, the me that felt less than, the me that felt not good enough, was like, fuck this. I'm in control right now. I can do anything for 10 seconds. And I held it. And that was the last time I limited myself. This was 2 years ago. I held it. And afterwards, I sobbed. And learning it in my physical body released decades of trauma that was stored within. And I spent the next couple of months with my mentor, like with Casey, who some of you know that who mentors me now. I spent the next several months with her and learning how to deal with all that shit, because I had spent so long surviving and running that I had never taken the time to stop and check in with myself and ask if we were okay. I had not taken the time to stop and get off of the fucking hamster wheel and be like, hey, how are you? To myself. Never once. Never once. I just had to keep proving that I was worthy, keep proving that I was good enough, keep proving that I was strong enough, keep proving that no matter what condition I was in right now, I was worthy and valuable and whatever. But here's the thing, I was the only one who didn't believe it. You ask anyone, even the shitty people who I'm not friends with anymore, who were around me at that time, everyone else saw my value. They saw my gifts. They saw my worth. They saw all of these things. And maybe they were using me and maybe they weren't, but I was the only one who didn't believe it. And that's why I started in the body. And starting in the body can mean different things to different people in their journey. It can start with good sleep habits. It can start with drinking tea instead of alcohol. It can start with like washing your face before you go to bed every night. It's really, really, really important to start demonstrating love to yourself tangibly. Because historically, if you were a trauma survivor, your brain does not tell the truth to you about you. Okay, next. Radical honesty put on repeat. This is a very, 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 very important part of everything that I do. It's part of the way I live my life with my wife. It's part of the way I show up on the internet. You will not catch me intentionally deceiving anyone ever, even if it would be easier. And sometimes I should just shut up and not be so honest, I think, but also fuck that. So radical honesty put on repeat. There is no such thing as compartmentalism. This is a very important thing that takes a while to like amalgamate or whatever, integrate into your spirit, but I promise you it's worth it. In Western society, we spend so much of our time keeping every aspect of our human experience separate. We have the work self, the social media self, the parent self, the sibling self, the auntie self, the stranger self, the grocery store self. We have the Facebook self, the Instagram self, the TikTok self. I'm already exhausted and I haven't even labeled them all. Okay. Then you have your spirituality, your nutrition. See where I'm going with this? All of these things. And we try to keep them all separate. We are holistic beings. When we block off parts of ourselves, whether it's from ourselves or everyone, we start to feel disconnected from the collective energy and the collective of humanity that we are designed to be in connection with. And then we long to be deeply understood. Because humans are mirrors for each other. And I don't care how intuitive and self-aware you are, present company included, you cannot fully understand, love, and appreciate yourself without being in relationship with other people and without being in relationship with other healthy people. So, what changed? How did I go from living this completely compartmentalized life to where I am now? The easy answer is that I stopped pretending to be someone I wasn't in places where I felt insecure, and I turned myself as the sole authority of who I am and who I get to be, which means I stopped asking people for permission to like what I like, to dislike what I dislike, to lean into the things that I'm curious about, to wear the clothes that I like to wear, to not wear makeup. You know, I am one of the very few people that I know that I follow on Instagram with over 1,000 followers, barely, whatever, that does not wear makeup and goes live on camera without brushing their hair. Like, I'm just like, I don't pretend. And then other times you'll see that I am done up a little bit, but like even for our wedding, there was this pressure that I should like get my makeup done. So I reached out to a makeup artist and I said, hey, I'm not 100% sure that I want my makeup done, but I'm really, really pale and we're doing an outdoor wedding live streamed on camera. Can you do mine and my wife's makeup and make us look like the way we are every day? And that was really important to me. I could have used it as an excuse to be glammed up or whatever, but I didn't want to look back at our wedding photos in 10 years and not even recognize myself and regret the choices that I made on that day because I was worried about what other people might think when they look at my photos. Like, how fucking stupid is that? Like, it magically makes me unmarried or something? Like, I was missing the point. So when I get to be the sole authority on who I am and who I get to be, I open up so much opportunity and so much permission to play and experiment without fear of failure, without getting it wrong, because failure isn't real. Failure implies that there's only one way to be a human. Failure implies that if you don't do A plus B to get C, then you're doing life wrong. And the number one way that I've found to get unstuck is when I'm starting to do these spiral things, taking and wondering shoulda, woulda, coulda, why did I do that? Like, what are everyone going to think about me? And sometimes that starts with a feeling and not a thought, right? Like, subconscious is tricky because you are thinking things, but it's in that part of your brain that runs on autopilot. So you don't know that you're thinking it, okay? So sometimes you'll notice the feeling first. Let me ask this question. When was the last time you were really, really excited about something? And then you played what I like to call the brain Olympics about whether or not you were going to go. So for me, this looks like, well, there'll be a replay. Well, I don't know if I want to spend $20. Like, yeah, that would be fun, but then I have to do this, and then I might see these people, and I don't know if I have the energy for that. And you like talk yourself out of something that would be really fun and awesome for you because of the what ifs, right? And those what ifs usually have to do with judgment, vulnerability, and whether or not you're going to be uncomfortable. But what if taking responsibility for how you show up now enables you to forgive yourself for how you did or didn't show up before? So instead of being like, well, last time I didn't show up and I'm afraid that might happen again, so I'm not going to go, and then by not going I don't have to face that problem. Every time we avoid something out of fear, the fear of that thing gets bigger. And I didn't understand that until I started taking responsibility for me. And it really fucking sucked because the amount of people that I actively got angry with for telling me that I wasn't taking responsibility for my own life when all I ever did was take responsibility for everyone else's shit, I was pretty pissed. And then I realized that's not what they meant. They didn't mean that I wasn't working hard, and they didn't mean that I didn't have a lot to overcome, and they didn't mean something about my value. What they meant is I was focusing on every single thing that I couldn't change instead of working on the things that I could. And I wasn't working on the things that I could because they felt too big, and I felt alone, and I was too afraid to say that, because I was never taught to be secure, and I was never supported by the people who are supposed to do it. So the harder answer of what changed was I had to let go of valuing other people's opinions over my calling, my choices, my dreams, my likes, my dislikes, and when I changed them. Because that's the thing that we don't get taught when we're younger, that we don't even get taught at university. Hello, I have 2 bachelor's degrees, and nobody told me that you get to change your mind when you get new information. You don't have to try to take this piece of information and fit it into everything else. When you learn more about yourself, and you learn more about your humanity, and you learn more about life, and you learn more about the universe and your place in it, and you learn more about the difference between having your needs unmet as a child and how you feel about it versus now, when those things happen, you get to change your point of view, your mode of operation, and how you show up in the world. But I'm the only one who gets to live my life. So when I give my power away to people's thoughts, feelings, or my projected understanding of their thoughts and feelings, because you're not in their brain, unless you're literally psychic, you can't actually know what people are thinking all of the time. I know some of the time, but not all of the time. I'm the only one who gets to live my life. So I said enough to making the choices based on solely how the people I put up on a pedestal would think of me. And I learned a couple of things doing that. I learned that I was a lot harder on people than I thought I was, because most people don't give a shit what I think or feel or do with my life as long as I'm happy. And the people that do care are usually repressing their own stuff, and that's why they have a hard time with it, and it still has nothing to do with me. And that kind of freedom, the freedom from judgment, the freedom from what other people are going to think, the freedom of whether or not it matters or means anything about me, is what helped me take big, scary risks to get unstuck. The how of it all isn't that hard. The how of it all, of just doing the thing, actually isn't hard. And before I get into like the rest of this slide, I just want to say that like you can use my laundry metaphor for this. It's my favorite one. I hate folding laundry. So I will dirty every single thing that I own and wash every single thing that I own and dry every single thing that I own and pile it up on a bed or a couch or a laundry basket or whatever. And in my head, it's such this big ordeal because I have to stop and take 10 minutes out of my day to fold the laundry and put it away when it just should magically do it itself in 2023. Am I right? Why do we not have a magic robot that folds the laundry and puts it away? I have a tiny little phone that does everything, but I don't have that. I'm mad. I want a refund. Anyway, so take this analogy. Even when there's all of this laundry and it's all piled up and it gets to the point where we have to do it, it has never taken us more than 40 minutes to fold every single piece of clothing that we own. And yet in my head, and in my heart and in my feelings, it feels like a waste of time. So I resent it because I have to stop what I actually want to do and do something that I have to do. And that's where the truth lies. Why are we stuck? The thing that I said to my wife within weeks before I did my first workout and started that 126-pound loss journey, okay, and started that journey of respecting my body and loving my body and laughing when my belly jiggles while I'm running instead of feeling ashamed, okay? And buying bigger pants when my pants don't fit instead of making it mean something about my value. The way that that all started was I got really fucking honest and I said, why should I have to give up all of the things that I like, love, and enjoy just so I can be healthier? This is stupid. And when that came out of my mouth and I was that honest and I said it to her and she just looked at me with love. She didn't judge me. She didn't say anything. And then I immediately said, wow, I sound like a spoiled toddler. How entitled am I that I think I should magically be different without having to change anything? Because haven't I been through enough? Haven't I felt enough things that I don't want to feel? Haven't I been uncomfortable enough? Why should I have to be uncomfortable and go without things? All these other people get to have this. Do they? Am I with them every minute of every day? Do I see all of their secret struggles? No, I don't. See, we need to learn to get familiar with discomfort and not only get familiar with it, but learn to love it and embrace it. Because we cannot get unstuck and build momentum if we're willing to feel uncomfortable. Learning it in my body through fitness and the amount of pain, discomfort, and just like gross things they don't tell you about being a fat person trying to be less fat. And that is a story for a whole other day. Slide into my DMs. I'd love to chat with you about it. The things that they don't tell us about those things. The minimal to moderate pain, like sometimes I couldn't walk because my muscles were mad at me because they were doing work they hadn't done in over a decade. I used to be a competitive athlete, and capital T and baby T trauma stole that from me, and I refused to try and get it back. But no more. Okay? These physical and emotional growing pains are not bad. They're essential. But our nervous system cannot tell the difference between good stress and bad stress. They have similar chemical patterns in our brain. So if historically most of your stress has been trauma, of course you're going to get stuck when you start to feel uncomfortable. Of course. You have to be willing to let go of the what ifs and the what was and be who you really want to be now. And I'm not going to lie, it is scary as fuck to be authentic, but it's way scarier to live and die depressed and unfulfilled, afraid to take up space and be disliked. And for the sake of who? Who's living rent free in your head right now that's keeping you small? Rent free. If they don't pay rent, tell them to fuck off. Do it however you want. I don't care. You could literally do it. You could figuratively do it. I named my anxiety Sharon for a while, and I used to yell at her whenever she would crop up because it was a really easy way for me to take the steam out of the situation, if that makes sense. So who do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to be? Do you want to be the person who, when somebody bites at you with their words, you're like, wow, you're in a lot of pain, whether or not you say that out loud? And I'm not saying toxic positivity, ew, I don't have time for that. What I am saying is learning to realize how much of what we do or don't do in our post-traumatic adult life has to do with what was or wasn't provided to us in our formative years and in our young adulthood. It's like so much, friends. It is so friggin' much. But we make it mean something about our value and our worth, which prevents us from getting momentum, which keeps us stuck and keeps us small. And I don't know who needs to hear this, whether it's now or later, but your narcissistic parent, if you're afraid to do something different, they won. It doesn't matter if you're no contact. It took me a long time to realize that. I was no contact with my mother for 6 months before I even asked myself how I was doing, because I had been surviving and keeping my head down for, God, what year is it? For 33 years, 32 years, okay? I wasn't allowed to have a different opinion. I wasn't allowed to live my own life. For some reason, she had unprotected sex with my biological father, and it meant I owed her something. When she was here last, right before we went no contact, she judged literally and just energetically every single thing that I have intentionally undone and relearned. Oh, I wouldn't do it like that. Oh, you do that? Oh, wow. Oh, eye roll, whatever. The kind of people who say shitty, judgmental stuff like that want to keep you small. And it's not because they hate you. It's because they hate themselves. And I know that sounds really bold, and I know that sounds really black and white, but for reals, friends, if somebody is intentionally squashing you when what you want, what you desire, what you dream won't hurt anyone, that's about them. And yeah, it hurts, and yeah, it sucks, because especially if you're here, if you're watching this, you're a sensitive person and you want everyone to feel loved, supported, and welcomed, including if that means something about you makes them feel some kind of way that isn't warm and fuzzy. But that's about them. And as soon as we learn that, as soon as we learn not to take everything so personally, our own failures, other people saying we failed when we didn't, we hate being beginners. We hate being beginners when we're older, like all of these things. As soon as we learn to not make everything mean so fucking much, that's when we get unstuck. That's when the magic happens. That's when everything becomes an opportunity to either learn, grow, or like, I don't know what the word is, but it's bigger than succeed, like triumph. There we go. To learn, grow, or triumph, right? I didn't get to signing a $1,200 client today, a $1,200 monthly client today, by looking at my idea 2 years ago to start an Instagram account cataloging my self-healing journey. It's stupid. Nobody wants to see that. If I had never done that, I wouldn't be here right now. If I hadn't risked feeling silly, feeling seen, being judged, whatever, I wouldn't be here right now. Like literally and figuratively. It was essential for my survival to stop trying to fit into the boxes, the coffins I had been placed in. So it can only come from within. No amount of external validation will help me discover who I'm going to be or create the confidence I need in order to love myself truly. So, in case you haven't understood by slide 9 what the secret to getting unstuck, to getting motivated, and to keeping momentum is, it's self love. That's the secret. Radical self love. And it's hard. Because especially if you were born or raised as a girl, you were taught that your needs always come behind everyone else's. That is post-Christianism for us. We can deep dive that in another way. But you were taught to consider everyone else, to be nice, to don't speak out, don't rock the boat, keep the peace, nurture, nurture, nurture. Okay? You can be nurturing and spicy. I am. In order to create the confidence to love myself fully, the truth of who I am, of what I want and what I need is under all of the bullshit. I have to clean out my emotional fridge and really look and see if it's worth keeping before I put more stuff in. Okay? I can do or be anything as long as I know and honor the deep place within me. Motivation comes from knowing ourselves intimately and loving ourselves without conditions or compromise. I could have made not selling a single seat to this masterclass mean something about me. Instead, I said, there's somebody who needs to hear this and can't afford to come. I'm going to make it free. Okay? I took the power back. Instead of canceling the masterclass because I wasn't getting paid for it, no, I was inspired to do this. So I'm doing it. And someone's going to see this and it's going to encourage them and it's going to give them that little bit of, oh, I am doing okay. Oh, it is one step at a time. What? There's no such thing as failure? What? Because here's the thing. No one can love you the way that you can love you. Having Olivia helps me to see myself the way that I truly am, but it's not enough for me to be confident in who I am. I have to love myself first and most in order for our relationship to be secure. It can only happen with support. So even though it comes down to us, even though we're responsible for it, we can't do it alone. Community, honest, authentic, healthy, heart-centered, empowered community that challenged my unhealthy patterns and still does, right? I'm still in those communities and I'm leading my own now because I believe so strongly in it. So they challenged my unhealthy patterns while holding me without judgment. And that was key to my healing. If you're from the post-Christian space like I was, accountability used to mean judgment. People were keeping you accountable by shaming you and guilting you into scripted behavior. That is not true accountability. True accountability says, Cheryl, you said you were going to do this thing on this day for this reason. It's 5 days later. You haven't done it. What's going on? There's no judgment in that. That's accountability. Someone leaning in and being like, hey, your outside actions are not matching who you said you are now. What's going on? How can I support you? Do you need help? Are you stuck in an old story that is coming up right now? How can we hold space for that? How can we shine light on that so that it's less alone, so that it's less scary, So finding people who will push you and hold you in the right ways, even when it's uncomfortable, is essential to success. What is not talked about is just because someone strokes your ego doesn't mean they're a good friend. If someone isn't willing to challenge you with kindness and honesty, they're not the right heart friend for you. Now, I'm not saying go and get rid of all of your friendships. Everyone comes into our life for a reason. What I am saying, though, is the people who get a stake in your growth journey, the people who get to see the parts of you that haven't been polished and sanded yet, the people who get to see your work in progressness are not the same people that you necessarily think they are. And Kendra's watching right now, and her and I both just went through this in our life, and we're going through it right now, where we're growing past certain friendships. And it doesn't mean anything about the person's value, and it doesn't mean anything about our value. But we were stuck because we didn't want to leave them or offend them or lose face or change the relationship or whatever those tiny thoughts were. I thought if I kept going forward and my path went a different way than this person who means so much to me, that I must be betraying them or doing something wrong. Right? That's not the case. The case is one of us is focused on growing and healing and being the best version of ourselves that we can be, and bringing literally anyone who also wants to do that along with us. And the other person is too afraid. So they're stuck. And they want to keep us stuck because they don't want to be alone in their shitty diaper while we're over here thriving. Because thriving isn't about everything being okay and about nothing ever going wrong. Thriving is about loving yourself unconditionally and without compromise. And that's how we get unstuck. It can only happen when quitting on yourself is no longer an option. Money is not the key to happiness, and my childhood trauma is not the reason for all of my shit that has happened to me now in my adult life. My lack of responsibility for how I live now is the number one catalyst for any problem that I've had in the last 10 years. My childhood trauma might be the reason I respond on autopilot, but as soon as I'm aware that there's an issue and I continue to not change it, that's my fault. That is my responsibility. Now, that doesn't mean anything about my value, because all humans, in my opinion, are wonderful, and their value has nothing to do with who they are and who they aren't, and what they do and what they don't do, and all of those things, okay? So my responsibility, or lack thereof now, is directly related to the shit going on in my life. The relationships that I allow or don't allow, the things I fill up my calendar with, the things I avoid, whether or not I take the 10 minutes to wash my hair. What's that about? I don't know. So how do you get unstuck? Quitting on yourself isn't an option. It's just not. Maybe you need to rest, but you're sure as fuck not going to quit. And coach hopping and program collecting won't fix my lack of responsibility if I continue to sit in that shitty diaper and literally mope about all the things that I don't have. I regret deeply, without shame, spending 15 years thinking that the reason I was stuck was because I didn't have any money. In the age of Google, the internet, the library, I live in Canada, so even though our healthcare is like maxed, it's still free for the most part. So I literally had more privilege than 90% of the people with similar circumstances. And yet I blamed being poor for so long. I don't have any money. I can't take that program. Guess I can't heal. Guess I can't change. instead of how can I make some money so that I can pay this person? How can I talk to them and ask if there's a trade, a payment plan, ask for some support and ideas inside of this business group that I'm in on how I can sell $55 things so that I can afford this program. Instead, I was like, oh, I don't have the money. Guess I can't do it. And so I kept telling myself that if I just get money, I'll have a better life. And so I kept sabotaging myself. Every time I had a job, I would hit a certain level of comfort, a certain level of success, and then I would have a doom spiral and quit. Part of that is mental health, and part of that is not taking responsibility for my own shit. Both things can be true. You can be a trauma survivor and still take responsibility for where your life is right now. You can be someone with a diagnosed mental illness. Hi, I have 3. And you can still live a wildly successful, integrated, empowering life. It doesn't take hundreds of thousands of dollars to heal. It doesn't. So, with that said, with the idea of coach hopping and program collecting, not fixing my lack of responsibility, with all of that said, about money, about stuff, I am going to tell you about my group coaching program that is happening right now. But before I get there, I want to tell you about how you can keep this journey going if you aren't the kind of person who has thousands of dollars to drop on a program or a couple $100 a month to drop on a program. Okay. For $23, you can upgrade to have lifetime access to this video so that you can come back and take one truth at a time to work through with your journal or whatever, and then get 4 weeks of live integrated support through an app called Boxer. And in that app, everyone who upgrades to $23 is going to be in there just like they were in my Facebook group for the Show the Fuck Up Challenge. We're going to be sharing every single day as we feel led, because we're the only ones who get to live our lives. I'm not going to be chasing anyone down to make them participate. Okay? We're going to do a check-in in the morning. We're going to do a check-in in the evening. And as people share throughout the day, I'm going to be available. I'm going to have my phone with me. Okay? And I'm going to talk to you. And you get 4 weeks for the price of like lunch, right? And we will hang out. That service usually costs $800 per week. And I'm giving it to you for $23 so that you have enough skin in the game that you show up, okay? But not so much that you can't feed yourself, if this makes sense. So with that said, you let me know. You can send me an email or hop into my DMs or whatever later, and I would love to get you set up for that. I want to move into the program that I created based on all of this stuff I just shared with you. It's called Quantum Accelerator, and it's a group coaching program for spicy saboteurs. I just really like that word. It makes me feel like a spy instead of a trauma survivor. Love it. Okay. So it's delivered in a hybrid format through pre-recorded videos that I'm starting to record right now, and then live coaching so that you don't have to sit there for 3 hours twice a week and watch live videos in order to get what you need out of the program. It also allows you to digest the modules in your own time over the entire course of the program, which I absolutely love. So what's in the program, Cheryl? Well, first of all, there is rest. I have rest weeks. I learned this from my coach the very first time I took one of her big containers, and they are essential. You get to peak emotional overload, and then you just need 7 days off. I'm not going to make it any more spiritual than that. Sometimes you just need a break. So what's in the program? The introduction module is about chaos and readiness. We go through why change feels unsafe. I help you identify your flavor of chaos, which is another way of learning styles, your style of trauma response. And I take you through the green, red, orange, and yellow flags of readiness. Okay. So like how to get from a full stop, I'm not ready for this situation, into like orange or yellow. Green flag is actually not the best place to enter into a coaching program. I honestly don't think when you're like, oh yeah, I'm so ready for this coaching program. If you're so ready for mentorship that's supposed to be transformative and you're not even the least bit freaked out, then either you're naive or you're taking a program that you're like above. And I don't mean that in a rude way. I just mean that we need to be pushed and held safely in order to grow. So if something doesn't freak you out at all, there's something that's not connecting, whether it's with you or whether it's the program that you're taking. Okay. Module 1 is radical honesty, which I touched on a little bit today. Module 2 is gratitude for assholes, which I love because we can feel that way, right? When people are, I'm so grateful for like, what I'm so grateful for my Louis Vuitton. Like, oh my God. And we're like, oh my God. Like, there's people who can't eat dinner. You're so stupid. And so, like, we feel a bit like assholes sometimes. So that's all that is. It's just my cheeky way of being like, it's okay if you feel like this is stupid. I promise you, gratitude is important. We talk about how to stop stopping yourself, which I covered a little bit tonight. And we talk about this very important thing, safe space. Safe space is not in the absence of conflict and discomfort. In fact, safe space, conflict and discomfort is essential to safe space. We have to be able to cultivate safety when we're uncomfortable, because if we can't, we're going to be stuck. And when we learn how to do those things, we empower everyone else around us to let their guard down and relax and be fully seen. So if we feel like safe space is only good vibes all of the time, it's not actually safe, because you're not safe to be messy. You're not safe to fuck up. You're not safe to make a mistake. Safe space is all encompassing. My only request with safe space is that nobody in the group is intentionally harming other people. And I break that down and we set our own rules and then we move forward. So unlike other coaching programs, the first 3 weeks you spend with me in this is about creating the framework to tackle the stuff that happens in the next like 10 weeks, because this is a 13-week program and it's like that on purpose. All right. So like I said, how is it delivered? It's a mixture of online, live coaching that will happen every Saturday evening. There will be live coaching so that everyone who has kids can attend. Because I've got this weird thing where, like, even though I'm childless by choice, I have a lot of millennial moms in my coaching programs, and I love it. So I'm totally fine with that. I can be your spicy, whatever the non-binary word is for auntie. I got this. Okay, so it'll be that. There will be some homework, but it won't be intense. The way that I approach book work is just a different way for a different learning style. There won't be anything that's in the workbook that isn't somehow covered in a teaching module. The workbooks are an invitation to go deeper, not something that's required in order to graduate. Does this make sense? I find that in order to make a program accessible, no matter where everyone is at in their journey, it's important to have a minimum and a maximum capacity for what I'm offering. So the minimum is watch the videos and come to the calls. Ta-da, you graduate, okay? But there needs to be somewhere for the people who've done a little bit of healing, but they're not quite in love with who they are yet. And so that allows the space. What's the price, Cheryl? Okay, so until tomorrow night at midnight Pacific time, the pay in full pre-sale price is $2,666. Now, if you won any of the prizes in my masterclass or in the 12 days of giveaways, you would have gotten a $111 coupon for that. If you participated in every single day of that challenge, you got 50% off. So the 2666 becomes 1333, right? which turns into $111 a month on a 12-month payment plan. Cool? Cool. So if you pay in full today, you get access to the dream casting, a bonus one-on-one call, and a year at the glance tarot reading. And if you want the 6-month plan, you just need to like opt in before, what's today? Tomorrow night is when the pre-sale plan ends. So you can get 6 months. I'm not doing a 6-month plan for any of the higher ones, simply except for early bird, because I don't want someone to have to pay half a paycheck per month to access this program. Do you know what I'm saying? Okay, anyway. And if these payment plans don't work for you, talk to me. Like, fuck. I never got a single thing I have now by being afraid to ask for it. That's all I'm saying. Okay. So we will have weekly hot seat coaching calls where you lead the direction of the call based on what's going on in your life in real time, so I can help you apply what we're learning to situations that actually matter to you instead of things that happen to me, so that you move from the hypothetical what if section to like actually doing the things, okay? I'm going to have a new moon and a full moon ritual every time there's a new moon and a full moon during the course of the program. I am also doing like the on-demand, like the bite-sized modules that I talked about, and heart-crafted support tools and workbooks that I make myself based on who is going to be in the container and what their needs are, and something that I'm already starting to put together that I'm really, really excited about that may or may not include a whole bunch of witchy shit, locally sourced and grown by yours truly, is a graduation gift that I'm sending to you as soon as enrollment closes, because shipping takes 100 million years. So again, recap of the price plans, whatever. Okay, so if you wait until the actual launch of the program, it's very expensive. But the pre-sale right now is $222 a month, or $111 if you took the challenge. Okay. When I feel like I don't have any options, it's usually because I don't like the options that are available to me. Sometimes I can get creative, but most often I need to suck a lemon and get going because this world ain't gonna change itself. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing now and pop back into the live feed. Okay, everyone, that was a lot. Thank you for still being with us, those who are with us. Do you have any questions about the stuff that we covered in the last hour? There was a freaking lot. How are you feeling right now? Do you need like to get up and dance, regulate? How are you doing? I'm just going to check inside of our Facebook group and see who's maybe on there. I know there's a couple of people in the chat, but I can't actually see who's viewing. I can only see that there's half a dozen people watching. So I would love to hear, say a little bit more about your flavor of chaos. Okay, beautiful. So a lot of people like order. I like order, but not the way everyone else does. So my particular flavor of chaos is that if I can't see it, it doesn't exist. And I don't mean that in an object permanence kind of way. I mean that like when everything is neatly, tidily put away, I get really, really anxious. And I haven't fully unpacked that yet. But my flavor of chaos, internally and externally, is who's seen that Everything Everywhere All at Once trailer or movie? Okay, so I literally think about everything all at once. Like my brain is always doing this. So I need to understand that in order to approach meditation, in order to approach energetics, in order to approach what order to do things in. So I used to get really upset with myself that I couldn't focus on one thing at a time. my brain and my body and my spirit just are not designed to do that. So I was shitting on myself for the way that my brain was wired. So when you learn about your own, the reason I call it flavor of chaos is because I think of myself as a chaos coordinator. When you come to me with tangled up Christmas lights that is your life and you put them in my hands, I'll start asking you questions and then I return it back to you untangled. It's the exact same thing that you came in with, but it's fixed. It was just enough. So that's what we do during that. We learn how you like to be supported, how you don't like to be supported, whether or not tough love is an act of assault against you and why, how to create a supportive, accountable space that isn't going to traumatize you, but is going to stretch you. We learn about what kind of organization works for you. So you can't see right now, but behind this screen, I have a giant whiteboard and it's got everything that I need to keep in the forefront of my mind when all of this stuff feels too big and too much because it's new and newness makes me uncomfortable. So I've got my financial goals. I've got who's enrolled in the coaching program so far. I've got who's attending the masterclass. I even have last year's income on the board as a challenge to myself to remember that I created that from nothing except for my own skills. So my flavor of chaos has to do with the way I'm wired, the way I understand and perceive the world, my neurospiciness. So depending on what words you use to describe it is what we're going to look at. Some people, they lean really heavy into astrology, and some people don't fully embrace that. And so they lean really fully into psychology. And I'm pretty well versed in a lot of those things. So thanks for asking. That was a really good question. It's also just like a really fun way of saying like your learning style, your love language. Sarcasm and hate is my love language. Just kidding. That's not true. It's like words of affirmation and quality time are my love language. And because I received neither of those growing up, they feel really threatening right now. Ta-da! If Shelly is still here, I would love to hear your thoughts about tonight's chat. If you have space to share them now, that's cool. If you want to send me a DM later, that's also cool. Shelly and I have very similar origin stories, and I noticed it really quickly. And I'm going to be a little vulnerable here. Shelly, you are a lovely, wonderful, glorious human being with a big heart who loves and supports strangers on the internet for no reason except to just make them feel wonderful. And for a hot minute, when you first came into my path, I was super uncomfortable because you remind me of my mom. And it's not your fault. The two of you look alike. You're roughly the same age. It's not your fault. And I had to fucking deal with that. And I had to deal with that hard. And I could have just like run and hid and avoided and not, but I leaned into it because of all the things I talked about tonight and because of all the things that I learned. And that's why I'm curious to see how you feel. Okay, you can relate to this a lot. Yeah, that's what I thought because we have very similar origin stories. So what I want for all of you to do, I'm going to sign off here shortly, and then I'll be available on Messenger if you need to chat for about an hour, and then I'm going to call it a night. But what I'd like you to do is, if you took notes, great. If you didn't, great. But I want you to witness how you feel right now and where you feel it. And if you can articulate your thoughts, I want you in your journal or you in your voice notes or you in your tarot cards to unpack what's been tugged at tonight. And if you're watching the replay, please send me an email and let me know what you'd like me to talk about more, what you'd like more of. I'm going into building our community on Facebook, and I just really, it's really impressed on my heart that these tools that I've learned through trial and error and luck a lot of the time, aka manifesting, should be accessible widely and at low or no cost. So my commitment to myself is to try to give folks enough that regardless of their status or station or geographical location, that rhymed, that they have access to help and support. That's why I don't want to paywall all of the stuff that I do. That's why when nobody purchased this, I didn't make it mean something about myself. I made it free. So I absolutely love you. Thank you so much for being here. And if you're time traveling and watching this later, I love even you, okay? I'm going to go hang out with my wife and answer all of your chats while I have a smoothie because it's 7 o'clock and it's too late for dinner. Bye for now.